Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Lewis. Thank you all the candidates for coming out. There's been a theme of family, children, and education here today. And I'm an early childhood educator here in the Faculty of Education. I spent 20 years as a K-3 classroom teacher before coming here. So it's an issue that's been dear to me. And the Green candidate earlier pointed out that in 1989 there was an all-party commitment in Parliament to ending child poverty by the year 2000. And he mentioned that it was reduced a little bit, but that's a statistical anomaly. It is almost 1 million children, and that doesn't include children living on reserve who live in poverty. Okay? And the other thing is about the early learning and care program that the former Liberal government under Paul Martin had hammered out miraculously with all the provinces, which was funded much higher than the announcement Mr. Davdia made yesterday. My question is, if over the last 30 years or more, all parties have given a commitment to ending child poverty, to introducing a national early learning and care program, why the hell hasn't it happened? In 2008, UNICEF did a report of OECD nations, out of 25 nations, using 10 criteria benchmark. Guess where Canada ranked? 24th, tied with Ireland. Okay? What's going on? Like, this is bullshit. These are children.
I think that one thing that you can count on with the NDP is an affordable housing strategy, an affordable daycare strategy, and an early literacy program. So I think that together those programs will help alleviate many of the things we've discussed and help lift people out of poverty in this great nation.
I understand your frustrations with programs. No matter what the program is, there's always frustrations with it. I think the problem is that governments from many years back, both Conservative and Liberal governments, have had priorities pushed onto that have pushed these other programs to the back burner. You know, I look at the Liberals in 1993 when they announced for the first time there was going to be a child care program. It was announced again in 1997. It was announced again in 2000. It was announced again in the Martin government. And nothing was done.
It was in place and the Conservative government undid it.
But the Conservative government's mandate was to make sure that all of society was going to be covered. That's why we came out with our $1,000, our $100 a month.
Obviously, you've never accessed
I understand that. I understand that. But if the people who have children where you are not, if you're sitting in the city of Regina and you can run an early day care and learning center, you'll be in a position to take more of the funds away from people who perhaps need some more funds. And what the Conservative government simply did say, we will put those funds across the entire population. That's all we did. Now, as time goes on and we have more ability to do things, yes, certainly there will be more programs available. And if you are willing to sit down and talk with governments, it certainly can happen.
What Ian has just said actually does not fit with what Mr. Harper and Minister Finlay have said in the House of Commons. They said they do not believe in a national system of early learning and child care. That is explicitly on the record of the House of Commons. The dilemma here is that when you say you want choice in child care so parents can make the decision about how best to deal with their children's early learning and education, the choice is not real unless you have the spaces to choose from. And that's the problem. The spaces aren't there. 70% of working families need access to child care, and the spaces are simply physically not there for them to be able to have that choice and have that access on an equitable and affordable basis. You're quite right. The program was in place. It was negotiated meticulously with 10 provinces across the country. There were signed agreements implemented in 10 provinces across the country, and Mr. Harper simply blew it all to smithereens and destroyed the national system. Now, we want to move toward that again, but the critical thing is being able to start quickly. Those negotiations, if you remember, took 18 months, and they were complex, and since then, governments have changed. They're not the same players in place. So the quickest way to get started is the fund, which every province will be able to have access to begin creating new spaces now, and that fund will grow from $500 million to $1 billion a year, and believe me, that's better than jets and jails and corporate taxes.
Okay, if I understand it right, you might be able to correct me. In Scandinavian countries, about 3% of the population of children live in poverty, which is, ours is about 11 or 12%. Correct? 14, closer to 14% in this nation. In Scandinavian countries, when you say taxes, they don't say evil. They say roads. They say child care programs. They say poverty alleviation. In the last 30 years where the very wealthiest in this nation are making buckets of money. These guys won't hang with them. They won't stand up to them and say, this is a nation, this is the whole nation, and it's not fair or right that all that money be put into the pockets of such a small portion of the population. You want a quick fix? Put a tax on the very, very rich, and we're not talking about being except for the first 2 rows. The amount of money that's being made here is huge. In fact, the one statistic is that they make in one day what most of us make in a year. If we were to tax those people, tangle with those folks, say, this is about a nation, this is about working together as a nation. And we can have that money into a fund very shortly, and we can address the fact that we've got children living in poverty, which should be offensive to all of us.